the Dutertes. Pero yun ang problema. Did Marcos do enough in terms of the budget to show the Filipinos na, hey, matino ako at ito ang mga hindi matitino? Yan. So let's see what will happen.
But that's a very good question. Sorry, kasi I eaten out, so hindi ko na record yung part, but I can get your part. So just to recap for friends who were not able to catch it, kanina we were talking about indicators of power. Na does it
Mhm.
matter na 500,000 lumabas, 1 million or 1.5 million? Sabi ko, if it were really 1.5 million, which some people mathematically question based on square meter calculation, geospatial calculation in comparison to other major events. If this were really 1.5, and this is the biggest ever mobilization by any group, well, not political group, but any group with some political implication in the Philippines. So in a way, this feeds into the narrative of the Dutertes that there's still a force to reckon with, and the idea that you shouldn't mess with us, right? Literally, some of the pro-Duterte accounts have been tagging me on Twitter saying, oh yan, don't mess with us. Kami pa rin na malakas. Essentially, the idea is that BBM is there because kami nagpanalo kay BBM, right? That 31 million that voted for BBM, majority dyan ay talagang mga pro-Duterte, kasama din some of these influential religious groups. And as I said, this was also important in light of the fact that for a long time there was a question as to the mobilizing hakot power of the Dutertes, because throughout his 6 years, after his last meeting the Vance, wala siyang masyadong nakipakita. Even during the unity era, not much, right? It was really the pink movement who was able to bring them out. Kaya sabi ko, these
Mhm.
numbers matter, and I was wondering if the Catholic Church, other groups, opposition, pink, are they going to do their counter mobilization? But the big question really here, and you were answering it very well, bro, is that the narrative is also shifting at a meta level, meaning pag tinignan mo yung na-analytics mo yung pinag-usapan ng tao, hindi na yung Quadcom. So your argument is that nag-peak kagad. Ako, my argument is that walang follow-through. Kasi nag-peak na siya and then hindi na nilagay ng impeachment support. I mean, sino nag-impeachment? Makabayan Bloc, Akbayan Bloc, so it's
Mm.
not really the core group and core leadership. Now, I understand because there was the Senate, holidays, BBM, and then there was this INC element. But I want to ask you this question, bro, kasi I got into a lot of trouble. And I'm sure tomorrow some friends will disagree with me. I'll be with Chelo Magno here tomorrow. So Chelo Magno, kudos to her, Justice Carpio, have been at the forefront of exposing allegedly anomalies dito sa budget, ACAP, PhilHealth,
Yep.
so on and so forth. First of all, I want to ask, meron ba talagang mga questionable elements to the degree that, we can say, and then, kasi ang gusto ko malaman dito is, and this is a legitimate debate, is the genuine opposition so over-focused on what's going on with the BBM budget that they're not looking at how hina-hijack ng mga Duterte ito? Kasi hina-hijack talaga nila, sinasakyan nila eh. Di
Of
ba?
course.
Biglang favorite nila si Justice Carpio, favorite nila itong mga progressives na anti-BBM, gano'n. Not Justice Carpio
Absolutely.
per se. Sinasakyan nila, di ba? Talagang sinasakyan ng mga Duterte yan. Or do you think also, maybe this is not mutually exclusive, that siguro medyo naging sloppy din ng administration that they should have known na kung medyo alanganin yung budget, gagamitin talaga ng mga DDS yan to change the narrative. Ikaw, anong basa mo dito, pare? Dito sa balancing act, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, alam mo kasi yung problema ng ni Marcos is yun na nga is that there are a lot of actors that are power players that are moving the narrative to whatever they want to be discussed, and they're just doing whatever they want, and they're not siguro they're moving without consequence or without thought of what the consequences may be. Ngayon, with regards to the budget itself, Sharla was saying that this is the worst budget ever, the most corrupt budget ever. JC Punong Bayan said that. I tend to not disagree with them completely because kung pag-usapan na talaga is the worst budget ever, my God, I could point you to Marcos Sr.'s budget. That was probably the worst ever because that was the first time we ever saw debts in the billions of dollars na nabaon ng Pilipinas sa utang, which led us to where we are today. That could pretty much be the worst. And a singular entity, a person, was able to siphon off all that money and for themselves. Wouldn't that be the worst? With zero opposition, zero accountability. So yung pa lang, would you really say BBM is the worst? Number one. Number two, Duterte's budget was not really any better. Remember, under
The
his
pandemic
administration,
budget, Farmali, I mean, the DOH, PPE, vaccine. This is just 2, 3 years ago, bro. How can
yes,
you say this is the worst? when I
Yeah.
believe easily we had the worst under Digong on so many levels.
And not just that, you remember that Digong's budget was the one that brought us from 2.5 trillion peso budget to where it is at, by the time he left, it was at 5.8 trillion pesos. A debt from 6 trillion all the way to 13 trillion by the time he left. So tell me, isn't that the worst? Because that's what brought us to this problem right now na ang taas ng bilihin natin dahil sa pag-utang na patuloy-tuloy na pag-utang at paglampas doble ng utang ng ating bansa. So, yung pa lang nasabi ko, I'm not sure if this is really the most corrupt. Why? Kasi pag tinignan mo itong budget na to, it is less than the previous budget. The previous year's budget. This year's budget is, so 2025's budget is less than 2024's budget. Number
Are
one.
you saying in
Num-
terms of relative to GDP, no? Kasi nominally is the biggest, $109 billion is the biggest ever. But as a share of our
in,
GDP, I need to double check that kung the biggest ever.
check it in
Oo, kasi
pesos.
share of GDP ang dapat correct measurement eh. Kasi ang laki
Right.
ng
Pero,
economy natin ngayon compared sa 2-3 years ago, di ba? Oh.
right. I think if you check it in terms of Philippine pesos, not US dollars, I think that is less than, if I remember correctly, parang this year was at 6.4, 6.5, and then this one was 6.3 or 6.2. But I could be wrong. But anyway, regardless, the
But
point I'm
isn't
trying to
that
make is
even
this.
the issue? Is it really this? I know that you're a fiscal conservative, Team Milei. I get it. Ako naman, it's not in only the size eh. It's a question of yung anomalies kasi or it's a question of discretion. Eh ang laki ng discretion ni Digong nung pandemic time. Ano ba yung scrutiny, institutional checks and balances nung time ni Digong? Ano bang saan napala yung mga formally investigations and hearings? Hindi ba mga kababal, hindi ba billions kasi bro, I'll tell you what, there's this kumakalat again Siyempre follower ako ng mga DDS at SMNI na. Meron image na kumakalat na essentially there's a ledger. On one side is Sara Duterte, that's nakalagay lang, I don't know, 125 million. And then on
Right.
the other ledgers, BBM, billion, 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 billion. So essentially the message is, even if Sara were doing something wrong, sabi nga ni Sara, napakaliit na amount lang yan, bilyones ngayon ninanakaw sa kabila. So again, if some friends argue, even if they were correct to say this is the worst ever budget, they're actually again helping this narrative na trivial lang yung ginagawa ng mga Dutertes, which for me, wait, let's not forget what the father did. Let's not forget the billions in confidential fund by the
Yeah.
Dutertes. Year after year, decade after
Yep.
decade, nung mayor si Sara, ang billions yung kanyang confidential fund throughout the years. So why are we not mentioning that as, so for me, ito na nga meron tayong mga kaibigan na sobrang never Marcos sila, medyo kailangan nila mag-ingat din na there's the Duterte element there. Vice President si Sara. The downfall of BBM is automatically the gain of Sara Duterte. But then again, I'm open to be criticized on this. Okay, hindi ko naman sinasabi wag mong criticize si BBM. I'm just saying wag mong kalimutan yung mga ginagawa rin ni Duterte and put it in proportion.
Yeah.
So tama sinabi mo. Actually, marami sa ating mga problema ay inheritance ni Digong. Lubog tayo sa utang. If you don't believe Kristan, listen to Secretary Dominguez, Finance Secretary of Digong, who said we have a fiscal crisis for generations will suffer. He said that in 2021, 2022. So why not mention those? Why just
You
focus on
know,
yun nga again, maybe I'm just being I don't know. You tell me.
alam mo ano, although I don't disagree naman with the points that Shello made with
No,
regards
I agree
to,
with them.
nga,
I agree
yung,
with them. No, correct sila per se. Oo.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's just more this. It's more this lang for me. Remember that the budget is passed based on the previous budget spending. So, pag tinignan mo, that one, yeah. So, eto na yan how they create the narrative That's exactly the information, but let me ask you I haven't seen that actual poster, no? I want to know, and I have a feeling that that's propaganda and misinformation. Because did BBM really corrupt those amounts that they're declaring that he did? I don't know, I might, I would like to question that because wala pa naman nakikitang problema sa paggastos ni BBM ng pera in terms of corruption except for yung mga alam natin tulad ng yung pag-siphon off ng Makaharlika Fund to fund
Oh
yung
yeah, we should
Maharlika.
bash Maharlika Fund 100%. Sobrang
Yun
correct
yung
na
yan,
ulit.
yun yung isa. Pangalawa, yung pag-siphon off ng pera from PhilHealth. Totoo naman. Pero saan napupunta yon? Did they corrupt the money? Did they put it in there to line their pockets or the pockets of their cronies? I don't know. But different naman yung nakita mo yung isa, harap-harapan ginagawa yung mga anomalya sa accounting nila. That's where the story is eh. This one was realigning budgets. Is that
So basically,
corruption?
you're saying
No.
walang piatos, Mary Grace yung kabila.
Oh sure. Oh sure you can say that. Why not? Because yung kay Sara, kitang-kita mo may kupit factor yan eh. May factor na hindi mo alam talaga saan napunta yung pera. Hindi naman yun yung sitwasyon dito with BBM eh. And by the way, may mga nagsasabi sa akin BBM supporter ako. Hindi ako BBM supporter.
Yeah, you,
I'm
you
part
just
of
said
some...
Maharlika Fund is dodgy, which I agree with. We have been very
Yeah.
consistent attacking
Yes.
the Maharlika Fund. Yeah.
Yes, but what the difference is, the Maharlika Fund is them doing it to be able to show na oh meron tayong wealth fund. It's an ego thing. I don't know if it was really meant to be let's take all the money and run with it. It was really going to be invested. So wala pa naman tayo nakikita to question whether it was really going to invest it properly or not. But I do know that the fees, legal fees of 2%, which any asset manager gets, 2% annual, is going to be a reward for the loyal supporters of BBM. Kasi at 125 billion, that is 2.5 billion a year that's gonna be paid to that board of Maharlika. So, yun yung nakikita ko. Is that corruption or not? Uh, I can't say it is because it's legal and they
But,
made it
but
legal
but you
and
answered the question, right? You said the worst was Marcos Sr. So if there was really something wrong, was already done in the earlier generation. But essentially your argument is this is a question of grand theft versus grandstanding. Like yung mga
yes.
Arlica Fund, kaepal lang yan, mga projection. Palpak pa rin siya, mali pa rin. Pero iba
Yep.
yung Piatos, iba yung Mary Grace Piatos, iba yung mga sobrang talagang kababalagan nangyari. And by the way, let's not forget that the president has more right to have an intelligence fund than, wait, ano ba, trabaho ulit ng OVP, Commander-in-Chief? Siya ba nagde-decide?
Spare tire.
Again, I'm not saying it justifies BBM having that budget, but again, let's not forget, actually, it was Digong who introduced massive confidential fund for the president. Under Pinoy, it was very, very small. I think maximum was 500 million. So again,
Yep.
you have to mention that kasi may continuity eh. Anything bad
Yes.
under BBM is actually continuation of Duterte, except may plus
Yes.
element ng Dutertes. They always have a plus element. So you should not forget that and overlook that. Yun lang naman ang argument ko eh. Wala naman akong disagreement dun sa may
Ah,
mga anomalya or kababalakan sa BBM
so
budget.
maganda bagitin mo na lang kay Shelo when you talk to her that Shelo, I guess the point lang and I want to make this point that don't look at things in a bubble. You have to look at everything in context, in its wholeness. You have to look at everything with all the nuances. Hindi pwedeng you look at something isolated kasi when you do that, you're missing the context of the bigger picture where this all is about. It's not, oh, hey, this is the worst budget. How is it the worst budget? I mean, that is debatable.
Did they
But
say that? So, sorry bro, kasi the only reason I mentioned Chelo lang is because I'm gonna talk to her soon. And some people thought na siyang pinapatamaan ko. But my point was more general. I don't watch them. So sorry. I just don't. So did they really say this is the worst ever? As in
now,
like
okay.
ever?
Let,
Sorry, I
let,
don't know that.
let,
So I cannot judge.
let, let
I
me,
cannot
let
judge.
me rephrase that.
Yeah,
Shelo
I think
said
we
this
have
is
to
the
be
most,
fair. Kasi we are mentioning friends. We just have to be, because
yeah.
I don't know that, honestly. Yeah.
Shelo mentioned that this was the most corrupt budget. JC Punong Bayan was
Oh.
the one who said that this is the worst budget. And
But did Chelo
honestly, ako
say that?
lang,
I don't think, did
yeah,
Chelo
but
say that?
she said that this is the most corrupt budget. You can ask her, but she was
I'll ask her
quoted and
tomorrow.
it
Yeah, yeah,
was
yeah.
I
Sorry,
saw
sorry.
the
I'm
quotes all
just,
over.
we just don't want to make unnecessary fights. I'm just responding to people asking questions. I'm saying it's not with a specific person or two. It is actually with a certain tendencies in the opposition, if I can say. I call it the never Marcos tendency, which in-exploit, unfortunately, naman. Again, this is a, hindi naman siya intentional. It's mahirap talaga siya. So essentially what you're saying, bro, is that you think kailangan medyo more vigilant tayo. As we question the BBM budget, wag natin kalimutan yung Duterte stance. So in that sense, medyo I think mas malapit ka sa stance namin ni Sir Ronald.
I think so, yeah.
No, I don't
Um,
want to create camps. I'm just trying to
no, no,
clarify.
no.
Debate to
No, no,
eh. It's debate eh.
Richard, here's the thing, by the way. So, I'll just say this, na, ano, I just don't agree with Shallow's statement that this is the most corrupt budget. That's it. And I'd like to be able to take that opportunity also to be able to say din na although she's not wrong, it's just that she has to look at the overall context and not put this singular issue in a bubble. Yun lang yun. Kasi, again, what caused this budget? BBM is just continuing the current budget from the previous administration. The only difference was, yun na nga, they were trying to get the PhilHealth budget into the coffers of the National Treasury, and then they cut the subsidy of the PhilHealth. Does that make it corrupt? I don't think that's an issue of corruption. I think it was an issue between squabbles of interagency. It doesn't mean they're corrupt. It's just that means that there's things that they're not getting along with. And by the way, I actually think that PhilHealth head should be kicked out because of how messed up he handles PhilHealth. Yun lang yun. So in that
Okay. So
aspect,
we're also slightly different then, because I'm actually a bit more critical on the budget issue, and I felt may mga forced error na nangyari, especially with BBM admitting na he has to look at it again, he has to veto it, ganon. So may parang admission na siya na may pagkakulang. But again, this is nice. I love it. This is a good conversation. We are a spectrum, right? We're all in the same side. We all want a better country. Kasi bro, people make issues out of things eh. Napansin ko na everyone is thinking, oh, Richard's trying to pick a fight. No, hindi ko kalaban yung mga ibang vloggers or ibang kaibigan tayong lahat. We're fighting for a better country. So Chris, we have a slight difference of opinion that I think ako a little bit more critical ako sa budget issue na yan. But as I said, there's no smoking gun. I mean, show to me a definitive evidence na talaga something big is going on. But for me, I think there's enough smoke, unfortunately, na kasalanan din nila and they could have avoided it. But I know this is going to be a little bit of a digression, but babalikan natin mga Sara impeachment. But speaking of awayan at mahirap mag-position, what is your take on this Pepsi Paloma movie? Darrell Yap. No, I mean, di ba? Darrell Yap, Vic Soto, sorry, hindi Vico Soto. Ang dami nag-aalis sa sorry, I'm bad
yeah.
at names. Vic Soto, the dad, not the son. The son is a fantastic guy, no question. What is your take on that? Kasi a lot of people are happy na this Pepsi Paloma issues bring back to life because talagang cold case siya. If you could put it in a technical sense,
Mhm.
and less technical sense, it's a massive tragedy that is still a mystery, right?
Yep.
Some would say it's actually not a mystery. It's a question of whitewashing or whatever. At the same time, it's
Mhm.
Darrell Yap, right? Made in Marites. Made in Malacanang. I mean, a person who
Right.
has a very questionable record. So, ikaw, what is your reading? Is it a case of a false vessel slash director doing the right movie? Do you think tapos ng issue na yan, it's unfair to bring it out right now? Do you agree na dapat nag-file ng cyber libel si Vic Soto considering how devastating this could be to his reputation? He was just riding the momentum of the Kingdom movie with Piolo Pascual and all. What is your read on that? Kasi culture to, but this is also a very polarizing issue. Napansin ko online, grabe yung responses pare. Millions yung
Ala-
nag-interact dun sa isang post ko. Nakita ko, grabe. So this actually riles up people. What is your take on this before we go back to impeachment?
Okay, so you know what? Honestly, for me, tama yung ginawa ni Vic Soto for filing a cyber libel case. Now, it doesn't mean I agree with Vic, nor do I believe he's innocent or guilty. All I'm saying is that Daryl should be very careful not to be maligning anyone's reputation or character. Even kasi sa totoo lang, wala namang may alam kung ano yung katotohanan. Kung totoo bang na-rape ba si Pepsi Paloma ni na Vic Soto o hindi. Walang may alam. There are urban legends. And why Pepsi Paloma killed herself ultimately. That because she couldn't get justice and pumunta daw sila to try to do a settlement with a gun. I mean, these are all hearsay at this point. Nobody knows. So for me, tama yung ginawa ni Vic Soto. Now, with Daryl Yap making the movie, well, he has a right to make a movie. But if you do malign anyone's character without proper evidence, then you have to face the courts and justice for that. Here's the thing. If Vic Soto was guilty, I don't think he would have filed the case. And by the way, I'm not a fan of Vic Soto. I actually subscribe a little bit to that Spolarium song where they were saying that it talks about the case of Pepsi Paloma and TVJ. But at the same time, kung kasi ito kung si Vic Soto is guilty and he files a cyber libel case, all Daryl has to do to win the case and not win the case of cyber libel that's been thrown against him as a defendant is prove that Vic did rape Pepsi Paloma, and that's it. But that's the risk that Vic Soto was taking. So the fact that he was bold enough to be able to file this case tells me that, wait a minute, maybe this guy is innocent. I don't know, and I want to let the courts decide on this one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're not making a judicial or legal assessment here. There are different schools of thought on kasi ang ginagawa kasi dito is, first of all, it is the issue with the trailer, 'di ba? Na the
Yep,
trailer like explicitly just zeroes in on the alleged crime there
yep,
without necessarily looking at the fact that, judicially speaking, this was supposed to have been settled. Yung iba naman sinasabi nila, well, trailer lang naman talaga yan. It's supposed to be a teaser. Hintayin mo muna yung pelikula bago ka maghumusga kung unfair ito or fair. 'Di ba? So, kasi preemptive ito eh. Essentially, I think the Vic Soto camp is trying to prevent the movie from being shown to begin with, which I think legally speaking is a bit difficult to pull off. But what I'm trying to say here is that yun yung debate eh, na malicious ba yung trailer, or it's just how trailers are supposed to be structured, or is it because it's Darrell Yap? You would assume that it cannot be completely innocent. But the fact that I think Darrell Yap had the picture with the mom and the brother of Pepsi Paloma, I think we need to hear the story of the family also. I need to hear more stories of the women who have been victims of
yeah,
rape, gang rape, because all we hear is Darrell Yap's side, Vic Soto's side. I want to hear
yep.
the side of women. I want to hear the
Ala,
side of family of Pepsi Paloma, friends of Pepsi
yeah,
Paloma, women. Because, bro, I don't know about the Vic Soto case, but we know that there is really a lot of abuses in the show business, in the industry all
absolutely.
around the world. It's horrible, including to men, right? Yung anak ni Mulak, di ba? Ni Sandro
Yep,
Mulak. So it's not just a female thing. So I think it's time for us to have a national conversation about sexual abuse, power play. Okay, not the Me Too way, kasi the Me Too went off, medyo na ambers yan, di ba? But we have to do it in a Filipino legitimate coming to terms with reality way. Yun ang stance ko on this. So actually, kaya nga medyo debate, kaya I'm willing to have this discussion with different sides. Kaya I'm very glad to hear also your side on this, brother.
Um, alam mo, Richard, here's the thing. I'm not a fan of Daryl Yap. So let's set aside whether I'm a fan of Daryl or not. I'm not. I think I think he's a poor excuse for a decent
Baka
human
tayo
being.
ma-cyber libelist.
Oo nga eh.
Huwag na tayo magsalita. Huwag
So,
na tayo. Wala akong
no,
masabi.
pero I'm not a fan of his, okay? And I think
None of us are, right?
what but ito lang masasabi ko ito yes, so he spoke to the mother and the women regarding what happened to Pepsi Paloma, and they have their views on it. Not the facts, they have their views. And I want to tell you about and remind you about, remember nung Christmas, during the holiday season, during the pandemic, I believe it was 2020, Christmas of 2021, or was it 2022, where this flight stewardess was at a New Year's Eve party, if I remember correctly, with 12 guys. And the 12, they were they rented a hotel in Makati, and she overdosed and died. And the police arrested the 12 guys who turned out to be all gay, and they were all her friends.
Yeah.
But
I think I
you
remember.
remember this? But the mother wanted them to all go to jail because she keeps insisting that the daughter
Nag-gang
was
rape siya.
raped by these men,
Na,
until it turns out that they were gay.
pala sila. Yeah. So it was just an overdose
But
with a bunch of LGBTQ friends. There was no gang rape.
yes, but absolutely. And now here's the problem. The mother in her heart, and I can understand her rage, really feels that the daughter was raped and murdered by these men. But if you look at the facts, talagang it would be an injustice for these men to go to jail when it was blatantly obvious they were all gay. and nobody was taking advantage of her, and they were even helping her.
Bro, how do you know? Baka biglang nagpanggap na, I'm just kidding. No, but going back,
So
no,
I
no,
bring
that's why
this
I
up.
mentioned the Me Too, di ba? It got out of control at some point.
Yep.
The Ambers, what? I get it. Ang point ko lang is, we have another layer of problem. What if, because this is such a sensitive and high-stake issue, isang katulad lang ni Daryl Yap ang papatol dyan dahil takot yung ibang directors. I mean, sorry to say this. I mean, I want to hear from other directors why no one else is making. Exactly. That's the other question. Why is no one else making this movie? Why did it have to be a Daryl Yap? I don't understand. Or maybe we do
Alam mo,
understand.
no, I think I think maybe maybe I just creatively there are a lot of great stories out there. Anyway, if you watch the Metro Manila Film Fest and I'm maganda movies right now, and it's something that maybe they were just thinking, oh, we
Sorry,
haven't done
you
it.
are
Maybe they
from the
just have thought about it.
showbiz
Unahan
too.
lang
I'm
yan.
sorry about that. I'm sorry. Yeah, and Christian, you had a great movie last year also, right? With Sila Sharon and also. Sorry about that. I for a moment I forgot. Yeah, please go ahead. And
Yeah. So yeah, so I was saying that I do believe that what happened here is nagunahan lang, and Daryl Yap was the first at it. Pero the thing was, I think that other directors could have done it more justice.
completely agree. Completely agree. I'm sure there's so many other directors who could have done this and could have done this and more justifiably and with less controversy. But were they other directors willing to do? I don't know. I don't know that information. So maybe lalabas yan. But I want to also know another thing, bro, which is um to what degree did